Hello, I'm Anne Bartlett, a Blue Badge tour guide. It's a lovely day and I'm heading over towards Gloucester's historic docks. I think they're rather special and well worth a visit, so I'm looking forward to getting there and showing you around. With its strategic position alongside the River Severn, Gloucester Docks developed as an inland port connected to the world. Now, unable to take the cargo ships of today, the docks fell into decline before being regenerated and transformed, yet still maintaining as much of its Victorian heritage as possible. A big draw to this area is the Quays, a popular retail outlet centre which opened in 2009, where you can buy designer clothes, accessories and homeware at big discount prices. You'll also find a selection of cafes and restaurants here too. So let's go outside and discover Gloucester's historic docks. I'm walking towards Lantony Road Bridge, a lifting bridge mainly used by pedestrians. Like most bridges on the Gloucester and Sharpness Canal, Lantony Bridge is operated by a bridgekeeper who opens the bridge for any vessel that cannot pass under it. Boats have the right of way, and when the bridge looks like this, there are boats either entering or leaving the docks. We'll have to wait to let them through, and there's plenty to see whilst we wait. And here's a view looking from the East Quay as a narrow boat leaves for the Sharpness Canal. I've included a map which shows the Sharpness Canal and the main basin, and we're standing at Point A. In its heyday during the 19th century, there were so many ships and barges moored here that it was said that you could walk from one side to the other across their decks. I know that standing alongside these tranquil waters today, it's hard to imagine how packed these Victorian wharves would have been. There were sailors, labourers and dockers who were working the wharves and warehouses, and horses, carts, horse-drawn trams, barrels, boxes, cranes and steam engines, making this place chaotic and very noisy. Sailing ships arrived from the open sea and up the tidal River Severn to unload cargo to be stored in these warehouses ready for shipping upriver to the Midlands. Turning around, I'm showing you the end of the 16-mile-long Sharpness to Gloucester Canal, which was opened in 1827 to bypass the most dangerous part of the River Severn, and when built was the longest, broadest and deepest ship canal in Britain. In the early days, ships appeared along here with their sails furled, having been towed up the canal by horses, and in later years by tugs. The towpath is to the right and Baker's Quay is on the left. Turning back to the dock, at the far end are the first warehouses to be built on the quayside for storing wheat, barley, oats and maize, to feed the growing industrial towns of the Midlands. As trade increased, more warehouses of very similar design were built alongside West Quay here on the left. They were demolished in the 1960s, and these modern apartments have been built in their place. In the early days, most of the grain came from Ireland. Foreign grain had a hefty import duty on it to protect aristocratic landowners' interests, which made the grain they produced very profitable, even when food supplies were short, causing bread, the staple of most people's diet, very expensive. During 1845 there was a catastrophe, with poor harvests and a great famine in Ireland. With large groups of the population near to starvation, the unpopular Corn Laws were repealed and the duty on imported grain was removed. This meant lots more foreign ships arriving, and these docks became very congested, with queues of ships tied up in the canal waiting to unload. Just behind the masts is Tommy Neilson and Company's yard. They're specialists in repairing, restoring and building traditional wooden ships and rigging. This lock to our left took the narrow boats and barges down to the River Severn. It's still in use today for boaters making the onward journey north to Tewkesbury and beyond. There's the lock between Lock Warehouse and North Warehouse, and as you pass North Warehouse, look out for the Atlas bell, which would have been used to regulate start and finish times for the dock workers. In the early days, corn imported through Gloucester was sent on to be processed by flour mills in the Midlands. but during the second half of the 19th century, several flour mills were built in the docks. The building with the white wooden structure down the wall used to be a grain warehouse with a flour mill to its right, originally owned by the Hadley brothers. This mill was involved in a landmark case, Hadley versus Baxendale, a famous case in legal history. There are many things to do in and around the docks. You can visit the Soldiers of Gloucester Museum, a small military museum which tells the story of the Gloucestershire Regiment and the Royal Gloucestershire Hussars over the last 300 years. The regiment was awarded the unique honour of being able to wear a badge at the back of their caps as well as at the front after the soldiers held off attacks by Napoleon's troops at the Battle of Alexandria in 1801. We're standing on the opposite side of Victoria Basin, looking back towards the Soldiers of Gloucestershire Museum in a converted custom house building. You can just see the top of the tower of Gloucester Cathedral and below the newly opened food dock with a balcony on the first floor. This stone building is the Mariners' Chapel. The docks closed on Sunday to allow everyone to go to church. However, the sailors didn't have clothes smart enough to attend a church in town. This chapel was built for the spiritual needs of sailors from across the world. Their lives were dangerous, and many sailors were lost in storms at sea. Because of shortage of space at the time, it was built close to the warehouses, as you can see here, and faces west, which is very unusual for a religious building in this country. Lantony Warehouse was a grain warehouse and now houses this award-winning museum. Here you'll discover the importance of Gloucester's location in transporting grain and other commodities to Birmingham and the Black Country, and as far as Shrewsbury. Canals kick-started the Industrial Revolution, allowing raw materials to be transported to factories and finished goods to be transported to consumers more quickly and cheaply than overland. From about the 1850s, the railway network spread across the country. Trains could not only carry more than the canals, but could transport people and goods far more quickly than the walking pace of the canal boats. The investment that had previously gone into canal building was diverted into the railways. Boatmen's families originally lived ashore, but as canals started to feel stiff competition from the railways, the working boats had to serve two purposes, serving as cargo boat as well as becoming the family home. Life on the canals became much harder. The families had few possessions, but what they did have, as you'll see in the museum, was practical and highly decorated. The River Severn and Sharpness Canal played a huge role in the growth of Gloucester's economy, and you'll discover a lot more about its industrial heritage here in the Waterways Museum. I hope that I have inspired you to visit the historic city of Gloucester and explore its rich history and heritage. I'm Anne Bartlett, a Blue Badge tour guide, and my website is www.touringexplore.com.